Hey guys, this is Sundown Rider here, and this is going to be my chapter review to the Seven Deadly Sins, chapter 194, A Cruel Hope. It's Nanatsu no Taizai, the Seven Deadly Sins. So the cover page is just Hawk being an artist. He's just drawing stuff. I think he's drawing the Seven Deadly Sins. There's nothing special, nothing worth really talking about. So let's go straight into the first page. The first page, we see this the destruction Dreyfus's move caused. His last move, I've forgotten what it was called. It's Kenjen, forgotten what it's called. But we see the destruction it's caused, and he reunites with Griamore in kind of like a touching, hugging scene. So Griamore is all crying and stuff, and Dreyfus is like, yeah, bro, I got my son back. But then Dreyfus is like, he holds out Griamore, and he's like, bro, why you so small? Why are you so youthful? And that was a pretty funny scene, because Griamore is looking at him like, what? And Griamore just looks really, really funny as a kid, because we've all seen him as an adult, and he looks hilarious as a kid. Every time I see him, I just chuckle a little inside. So we then see Hendrickson pop up, and he says quite a bit happened during their meeting with the sages and stuff when they went to the druid village, and he's going to explain everything to Dreyfus later. Dreyfus is freed now. So Dreyfus embraces Hendrickson, saying that he must have put a lot of pressure, he must have caused him to worry a lot, and Hendrickson's starting to cry. He's just like, bro, it wasn't just me that felt the pressure. Like you must have felt the pressure of being possessed by a demon and being made to do all those horrible things he did. So we then see Zarathustra on the floor, and he's laughing, saying that he should have made Dreyfus his successor a lot sooner, suggesting that he either did make him his successor just late, or through his death, Dreyfus inherited the title of Great Holy Knight, and that was his succession through there. But Zarathustra says he thinks his time has come, and we knew that after expending all that energy, and not really the expenditure of the energy, but more so that he's cured himself of his guilt, he's relieved himself of his guilt, which is the reason why he came back due to one of the commandments. So Hendrickson then asks, while Zarathustra and Dreyfus are like kind of talking, he asks Griamore why he's here. He should be with Jericho in their company. And he says that he went to take a leak, and when he came back, everybody was gone. I gotta take a leak. Came back, and everybody's gone. So that was the kind of thing that he missed out on. I think he would have been with Merlin and them, but they obviously were doing their own thing. So Dreyfus and Hendrickson are now both starting to voice their guilt about what happened, what's transpired over the years since Zarathustra's death, and including Zarathustra's death. And they're both kind of wailing, like they're not really crying, but Dreyfus is like, you could see the guilt pouring out of him. And Hendrickson's like, bro, it's not even your fault. Most of it's on me, because I was too weak to save you, my best friend, from being possessed. And then because of your possession, I was basically knuckled down. I was basically chained to the wall, unable to do anything. So it's because of my weakness. So they're both kind of just trying to inherit the blame almost. But then in what was a really comical scene for myself, Zarathustra headbutts both Dreyfus, and then he headbutts Dreyfus, and he flicks Hendrickson on the nose. He's like, and that was pretty funny. He's just trying to get them to understand that as adults, they should just accept what they've done, take responsibility, and try and move on, try and move forward, try and correct everything they've done. So he then begins to dissipate. This is Zarathustra. He then he starts to glow and dissipate as the souls who've been recovered by that commandment, once they fulfill almost like their request, once they've diminished their guilt, and once they've cured themselves of their guilt, they kind of start to vaporize and just go to heaven, you assume. So Zarathustra begins to dissipate, telling the two knights, Hendrickson and Dreyfus, to tell Gilthunder he's always watching over him. And they resolve to tell Gilthunder, obviously. But this brings into context that Zarathustra's biggest regret wasn't the fact that he didn't get to see Gilthunder grow up or anything. If anything, Gilthunder was his pride. His biggest regret, was dying while his brother was still in danger, and dying unable to help his brother and his friend. So they then hear that the two knights that did, Dreyfus and Hendrickson, they then hear someone say, that promise shall never be fulfilled. And then we see Fraudrin. He's still alive, and Hendrickson says he should have been erased by Dreyfus's last move. And Fraudrin says, I would have been in mortal danger if it actually hit me in the form I was in, but I'm in my true form now, and all it did was pierce me. And you're just like, all right, if it pierced you, you should still be in pretty mortal condition. But Frodrin says he can take this. So we then see in a double spread Frodrin's true form, and he calls his full magic power, his original magic power, full size, and there's a translator's note which says gigantification. So that's either the name of his power, or that's just what he can do. He can gigantify. So he's absolutely huge. I mean, Dreyfus's attack is like it's a decent sized hole, but in a giant that big and a demon, it probably doesn't really affect him too much. But he's got a hole going through his shin where it was a massive attack and probably should have destroyed his whole body. And when you see Hendrickson and Dreyfus in comparison to what's his name, Frodrin, when you see them in comparison, they're tiny. He's absolutely massive. So he then says that he's going to attack Hendrickson and Dreyfus. Well, he just attacks Hendrickson and Dreyfus evades, and Hendrickson is saved by Merlin's box magic type of thing. So Hauser's all like, who the hell is that monster? And I think it was Merlin that says that's Frodrin's true form. Hauser is told that Dreyfus has been freed from Frodrin, and he's all like, yes, we finally got one of our main members back. So Frodrin is like, yeah, none of this matters. I'm just going to curb stomp you all. I'm just going to stand on you, basically. He's huge, so he could just stand on them and kill them. But then he gets slapped upside his head, and his face just contorts with the slap, which is pretty funny. But no one saw who did it. So then and I was thinking during this whole escapade, that's got to be Meliodas. No one can move as fast as no one can move so fast as to hit Frodrin and not be identified by Frodrin. So Frodrin, I was thinking it must be Meliodas. So he gets slapped a few more times, and then we see Meliodas standing on the end of his arm, and Frodrin's just like, what? So Frodrin's all shocked. Everyone's shocked apart from Merlin and Ban. I was surprised that Ban wasn't shocked, because he didn't seem to be knowledgeable, he didn't seem to know that Meliodas himself was a demon. So the fact that he knew that he could reincarnate or come back from the dead in some shape or form was kind of surprising to me. It was either he wasn't surprised because he knew, or just that the surprise didn't show on his face, and that he was just happy to see Meliodas again. But the other person who actually knew that Meliodas would be coming back eventually was Merlin, who says that he's finally returned. I expected as much. So Merlin seems to know a lot more than not more than she's letting on, because she lets on that she knows a lot, but she knows more than we think she knows. And especially considering her lineage, we need to find out whether she is actually a demon herself, and whether her relationship with Meliodas probably extends a lot further back than we thought originally. So she might actually be old friends with Meliodas or something. So Meliodas and Frodrin then have a fight, and they're hitting each other pretty evenly. I mean, I thought Meliodas was winning, but then you see his appearance, and he's taken quite a few hits. Hauser says it could go either way, and Merlin says this is pretty strange. How strange? Something's going on that's a bit weird. And she says that Meliodas' power has risen since he was here before his death, and his power level is now 30,000 more than before. But then she says, but he must be and then kind of trails off and doesn't say anything. So then the real Meliodas pops up and says, you held up well against my clone. So she was obviously going to say something along the lines of, it's got to be his clone. He's not kicking ass. So that means that she also knows that every time he comes back, or we assume every time he comes back, that he gets some sort of incremental power up. And Meliodas just absorbs his clone into him, and like he's got no hits on him now. His clone was taking all those hits. So Merlin clarifies that Lost Veins' ability. We already knew this, but I don't think it was ever really clarified. But Lost Veins' ability allows real life clones, like a Kage Bunshin. So yeah, and his true power level is 60,000. Now that's a beast baseline power level, because he's not even like in rage form. He's not even in demon form when she says that. So Meliodas teases Frodrin, saying, "What's wrong? Cat got your tongue?" like typical Meliodas. But then the whole conversation takes a real dark turn when he makes this dark speech saying, I was raising your hopes with my clone, only to kind of taste how you would feel when I crushed your hopes, only to savor the taste when your dreams and hopes are crushed." So he's basically saying, I sent my clone, you fought evenly with my clone, you were like, yeah, I got this, I can take them all out, and now I've come just to see your face when I've crushed your hopes. So it's a very un-Meliodas like thing to do. He's not the type to toy with his enemy, unless he's having a joke. But he's not the type to toy with an enemy. He's seriously thinking of killing or even like incapacitating. He doesn't toy with people like that. He's not that type of guy. So, and he says there's no better feeling than this. So, and he's got a really, really menacing smile. So then a black cloud envelops Meliodas as Hendrickson and Dreyfus look on, and Hendrickson's all like, Meliodas, and Dreyfus is like, he's really disconcerted. He's like, no. He just says no. And then Meliodas kind of smiles a wicked smile, a menacing smile. And Dreyfus says, can that really be him? Is that really Lord Meliodas? Is that the captain we've all come to know and love? So I think it's really weird, but he seems to have lost some form of empathy or sympathy while he was in purgatory. Is some really weird stuff going on. People online on Manga Stream were saying that maybe he's given up. Maybe every time he comes back from purgatory, he removes some part of emotion, some aspect of emotion from himself, and he comes back stronger. And that might be true. It seems like he's lacking sympathy, but I don't think he loses anything major, like anything like happiness or anything like that. He just loses parts of he loses parts of what you would call almost like honor, kind of etiquette. So I think he's lost his sympathy for powerful enemies, or just his sympathy in general. And the more he kind of pushes himself this way, the more powerful he becomes. It's a really, really weird thing. There's actually a manga I was going to compare this to. I've forgotten what it was, but basically the more he travels down this path, it's almost like Grey from Fairy Tail. The more he uses his demonic abilities, the more he becomes lost in himself. So I think the same can be said for Meliodas. The more he's kind of relying on his devil fruit, on his demonic abilities, the more he's losing himself in those demonic abilities. But he hasn't lost his true self yet. People were saying that maybe he's going to become the vessel for the Demon King. I don't think so. I think he's still Meliodas. He's just got a weird twist to his nature at the moment, and he's really, really lost his ability to sympathize. And he's a no quarter type of guy. He'll murder you straight up now if you're his enemy. But I actually like this side to Meliodas. I don't want to see people being spared, especially the Ten Commandments. I don't want to see them being spared, where Meliodas has the chance to kill them, or Ban or Esther or Escanor has the chance to kill him. I mean, Escanor, he straight up kills him. He doesn't give a shit. So I want Meliodas to be that type of guy, to kill all his threats. But I don't know what this menacing aspect of him has brought along with it. Maybe his demonic side, maybe he has like split personalities, and his demonic side's taking over, almost like Ichigo all over again. But yeah, I don't know what to think about that. I just think he's lost his sympathy and his empathy. But let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know all your theories in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit.